resisted extension for elbow, forearm, wrist, and hand muscles. Again, no heavy lifting or carrying, no sports activity, and no strengthening with heavy weights. The advanced strengthening phase, which is 17 to 18 weeks post-op, it continues the appropriate exercises needed from the previous phases. Mobilization exercises for the shoulder, internal rotation, horizontal adduction, and extension, now to gain the full range of motion. We can use different machines and equipments to perform different upper extremity exercises to increase the strength and enhance the proprioception. We can use seated row weight machines with weight, body blade, ball on wall, exercise on balance board with hand, ball toss using a light balloon, push-up progression against wall, and elliptical trainer as this. The final phase is the return to activity, which is 19 to 24 weeks post-op. We now add weight training with heavy resistance for all movements in the upper limb. We use press or pull downs, pull-ups or dips, push-ups, and we could add swimming. The third treatment we'll discuss is the virtual reality. Motor disorders and loss of functional movements are common consequences of the brachial plexus birth pulses due to muscle contractures, impairment movements, and motor weakness. These deficits of the upper extremity can result in limitation of the performance of activities of daily living and restrict the participation of the child at school and community. Recent evidence suggests that many children with neurological disabilities may improve motor performance if provided with sufficient opportunities to practice. Here comes the virtual reality. It allows individuals to interact and train with or within interesting and relatively realistic three-dimensional environments. The VR offers the opportunity for intensive repetition of meaningful task-related activities that are necessary for effective rehabilitation. The VR system offers the capability to achieve rehabilitation goals through the use of a real-time feedback and adaptive strategy with varying degrees of difficulty. The VR is a motivating and entertaining way to engage the children in the therapy since every child likes to play video games. Different devices can be used, but we are going to discuss the Armspring, which is a novel tool that combines robotic assessment and virtual reality to provide a new, unique way to engage children in the required repetitive motion for motor learning. The Armspring has multiple parts. There's the objective assessment, which is stored in the computer itself. There is the augmented performance feedback in the game that the child is playing. There's a hand function training for the pronation and supination, self-initiated active repetitive training, which is using the elbow or the shoulder, ergonomic exoskeleton for the children to rely the upper extremity on, and there is the arm weight support in an extensive 3D workplace. The Armio system has 5 different degrees of freedom. It gives the freedom to shoulder flexion and extension, shoulder abduction and adduction, elbow flexion and extension, forearm pronation, supination, and grip strength. This is all will be included in the game. So the child, when playing, will have the freedom to use any of these movements without restriction. The therapist can choose to look out different motions or work on all motions at the same time, depending on the needs of the child. So if he needs to increase or stimulate, let's say, just shoulder flexion, he will look out all the motions except for shoulder flexion. Adjustment can be made to the amount of gravity assistance in the exoskeleton provides, depending on the strength of the upper extremity. As we said, we do an assessment for this child and we determine the degree from 0 to 5 or 0 to 7, which scale you are using. So the gravity assistant is based on the strength of the upper extremity of the child. Several virtual reality games for each desired range of motion are available for the child to choose. This way, he will not get bored from the game itself. The therapist can adjust the electric lifting column according to the child height during sitting. So he needs to be comfortable, and we want to rule out any compensatory movements. The length of the orthosis for the upper arm and forearm to avoid compensatory movements, and the 3D workspace with adjusting the weight support. The children has to practice the VR program for 45 minutes, 3 times a week, for 12 successive weeks. The practice in the VR environment produces an active participation instead of passive practice during the training sessions. Instead of just telling him, raise your arm, close your hand, do a grip strength, or give him, now he will actually be involved in the virtual reality environment you provide. The virtual reality environment can provide an opportunity to practice and learn without the fear of losing or injury. Either the child nor the family will lose this, will not face this problem, which can result in a sense of personal control or even self-efficiency, which can, ultimately enhance the child's motivation. Our take-home messages is the brachial plexus injury is a frequent injury that could lead to functional deficits. The brachial plexus injury has many causes and could affect either adults or children. Assessment should start as early as possible. Assessment relies mainly on clinical evaluation and supported by instrumental tests. The treatment goals are to prevention of muscle atrophy, prevention and restraint of the secondary deformities, pain suppression, recovery of somatosensory deficits, and developmental disregard restraint. Numerous treatments are used, including range of motion exercises, stretching, and strengthening exercise, TIMT, and virtual reality systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Rwanda. Thank you so much for the presentation. Now, if you have questions, please raise your hand and you can ask. Other than the slides and the material, it will be posted on this webinar site through Maharat. I just have to remind you that all these webinars will be posted as recorded in the in this Maharat platform. Maharat platform is a courtesy of the e-learning center at Just University. On behalf of our Just CRS project, we would like to thank Mrs. Rwanda Hamdan for this great presentation.